What's up, everybody? Josh Armijo here. I hope everybody's doing good and well and stuff. I got an album review to do for you, and I'm going to be talking to you about the new album from the band Visceral Disgorge, entitled Slithering Evisceration. This is released on Agonia Records. Now, if you're not too familiar with this band, they are based out of Baltimore, Maryland, and the best way to describe the sound of this band would be a very aggressive, gory, sci-fi influenced style of brutal death metal. Yeah. My first introduction to this band was their 2011 debut full-length entitled Ingesting Putridity. All this time later, I still think that album holds up quite nicely. From the super detailed artwork, to the gory lyrics, to the guttural vocals, to the really well-established musicianship that album had, it was just a very memorable debut. And ever since that album came out, there has been a lot of things going on within this band's itinerary. Some trial and tribulation, to touring constantly on a really consistent basis, to just fine-tuning their craft and their sound. And this band has really done a lot to keep their name in the public eye and keep their name out there with their brand of music. Earlier this year, we got glimpses of what was going to be their brand new full-length album in terms of artwork teaser pieces, to song clip teases, to new songs, and I was like, finally, we're finally getting some brand new material from this band after all this time later. And now here we are with the second full-length from Visceral Disgorge entitled Slithering Evisceration. It's 9 tracks, and it clocks in at around 31 minutes in length. And you can easily tell by listening to this album that this is a vastly different sort of music experience in comparison to Ingesting Putridity. But what hasn't changed about Visceral Disgorge is their knack for creating some very, very memorable riffs and some very strong songwriting. I think for the most part that this is a very worthy successor to Ingesting Putridity in its own special sort of way. And what makes Slithering Evisceration sound so solid are these really, really well thought out riffs that are heard throughout this entire record. The minute you hear it on tracks like Fucked Into Oblivion and Saprogenic Deformation, you can already tell that this band hasn't lost a step when it comes to their aggression and death metal oriented roots. Really, really well done riffs, a lot of crazy slam, pit riff influence sort of stuff, especially on the track Saprogenic Deformation. There's some really, really awesome stuff going on that track. To the second half of this record with tracks like Necrotic Biogenesis and the closing track Transfixed in Torture. Just some really top-notch guitar riffs going on throughout this album, and that's what makes this album so special and unique. Really good bass tones heard throughout this album too, definitely a little more on the aberrant technical sort of side, but this is a more riff-orientated sort of record, and I definitely think that dominates the majority of this album. The drumming on here is pretty much non-stop speed, a lot of blast beats, a lot of fills, a lot of creativity going with this drumming. It's a different sort of drum sound in comparison to the last record, but I think this drum performance sounds really solid. A lot of fills, a lot of blast beats, a lot of craziness going on here. Good tempo and speed kept up throughout. And when it comes to the vocals, that's another thing I really like about Visceral Disgorge is their vocalist. Travis is a really top-notch vocalist here, and you can definitely tell that he still has that super low, guttural, undecipherable tone to his voice, and I think it really, really works out well here. I definitely would consider this to be a very top-notch vocal performance this time around. So overall, like I said, I definitely consider this to be a very worthy successor to the first album. I don't think it's better than Ingesting Putridity, but I definitely appreciate what Visceral Disgorge were going for here with this album. It's really top-notch stuff, and if you were into this band, if you're into their first album, I definitely would recommend giving this new full-length a try. I definitely think it's really, really awesome stuff. And if you like Easter eggs and humor and all that sort of stuff, wait till the very end of Transfixed in Torture. The track on record is like 7 minutes, but you gotta fast forward a little bit to get to the treat at the very end. I would say it's like towards the last minute or the last 30 seconds of this record. I definitely would say give that a try, and you'll be in for a silly little surprise. So, if I had to think of any personal favorite tracks, I would definitely have to say Fucked Into Oblivion, Architects of Warping Flesh, Saprogenic Deformation, and Necrotic Biogenesis. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you some links in the description box as to how you can get a hold of this album and listen to it. I will leave you a link to the Agonia Records Bandcamp page where you can listen to this album in its entirety, hear it for yourself, and be your own judge as to whether you think it's worthy of being purchased or not. You can stream it, buy it digitally. It is available physically as a CD in a wide multitude of 12-inch records. I think you can buy it in the United States through Indie Merch Store. And you can catch this band on tour right now with Disentomb for the latest installment of the Bloodletting North America tour. Of course, this band is a very, very well established live act, and I know they will be bringing it on the road every single night. So, again, the album is Slithering Evisceration by Visceral Disgorge. This is released on Agonia Records. Definitely check this one out. And for a score, I'm going to give this one a pretty solid 8 out of 10. Very worthy successor to their first album, and I'm definitely curious to see what happens next. Hopefully, we don't have to wait another 8 years for another full line from them. So, if you've happened to have heard this album, definitely let me know what you think about it, how you feel about it, and how you think it compares to the previous release. Or any of you guys into Visceral Disgorge, definitely let me know. Have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for checking out my channel. Until next time, runnerjma out.